everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am going to be sniffing for the first time the brand new fragrance from Centauri called Elixir. I was hoping to do this in a live stream yesterday, which would have been Sunday, but I wasn't feeling too well, so unfortunately I didn't do the live stream. But I'm hoping to do a really fun live stream very soon to celebrate 7,000 subscribers to my channel. So thank you to every one of you that is watching and is subscribed. It is really appreciated, and there will be a fun live stream. Not for the next few nights because I'm working, so I'm not sure when it's going to be, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be a party. So I hope when it happens that you can join me. But for now, let's get on with this. Sniffing this brand new fragrance from, so I think most of you will know who Peter from Centauri is. Peter is the brand owner and perfumer and general dog's body, what is it, bottle washer? I don't know what the term is, you know what I mean. Peter is Centauri, Centauri is Peter, and he has kindly sent me this sample, so I will read you the notes and then I'm going to spray it. So Elixir has cognac, coffee, caramel, cedarwood, sandalwood, patchouli and musk. So my first thoughts based on the notes alone is that it might be a little base heavy for me. So generally when I like my perfumes to have some lightness. I like them to have a little bit of freshness, whether that's from citruses or even from a lighter, fresher florals. So if something's all kind of like richer notes, heavier notes, sweeter notes, it might not be for my particular taste, but it might be the sort of thing that you like full-on gourmand lovers would enjoy, or those of you who like really strong, dark, rich fragrances. But we don't know actually what it smells like yet, so let's not judge it just on its notes alone. Let's get it sprayed onto the hand. Here we are. So quite a generous little dousing there on the back of the hand, and I can smell already in the air a very rich mix, not rich Mitch, a rich mix of, it smells like I would probably initially say it smells a bit like a tobacco, kind of a tobacco gourmand. Did we say, is it tobacco? No. No tobacco, but it's making me think of tobacco, or even when people vape. You know when people vape and you can smell, and sometimes you think it's perfume, you think that's a really nice fragrance, and actually someone's vaping something that's maybe a little tobacco vanilla-y or something like that. So let's have a look. Something in here I recognise. I tell you what, there's something in here that's making me think of 4160 Tuesdays Maxed Out. I know that one came out a long time ago. Maybe not that many of you will know that one, but it's definitely got something in there that's reminding me of Maxed Out. Now Maxed Out was a fragrance that was about booze, cannabis, leather, musk, naughty stuff, naughty behaviour. It is reminding me of that at the moment. It's actually not as dark and rich and heavy as I was expecting. It's really nice actually. It's much better than I expected based on the notes, and I when I say better, I just mean more attuned to my taste, because I thought it was going to be really, really heavy, like a really thick dark cloud of fragrance, and it's not. There's a powdery, sweet muskiness here. There is something lighter, not a citrus. If there's any citrus in here, I can't pick it out, but there's something lighter going on in here. It's almost like smelling... So I'm going back to Maxed Out again, but Maxed Out was supposed to bring you the scent of bed sheets the morning after a fun party. High class hookers was mentioned in one of the descriptions. It's making me think of sheets with that body musk on them. Not dirty, not armpit smell, not, nothing too disgusting at all. But it is making me think of human skin that's been sleeping in sheets, maybe doing a bit more than sleeping, but there's still a little scent of a fresh sheet in there. So the sheets were fresh on the night before, then there was some activity overnight, and now this is what you have. Oh, there's some really unusual things going on in here. I wouldn't specifically say I smell coffee, although coffee was a note in Maxed Out as well, and maybe the cognac was. I really don't know how to describe this. So based on the notes, you've got coffee, caramel and cognac. They're generally going to be like the richer, sweeter notes. It's not as rich and sweet as you might think based on that. Any caramel is very subtle at the moment. Oftentimes caramel in a perfume is just too sweet for me. It's a little too fakingly sweet. I don't mind it. I actually think it smells nice, but I just don't like it for me to wear. So for example, Francesca Bianchi's very first fragrance for Hedonic, for her second brand Hedonic, that one, the caramel was too pronounced for me, so it was just a little bit too sweet and rich for me. It's not here, it's very subtle. I think probably the combination of the sandalwood and the patchouli is balancing those sweeter notes out really nicely, and it feels like Peter's really balanced this so nicely, because as I say, I was expecting something very heavy and rich, and although it definitely has some elements of richness, it's beautifully balanced. So it's not, it's a cloud-like effect. Definitely get something clean. I know there's musk listed, and I know Peter hasn't used animal musk, but there's something, it's like a combination of clean and dirty musk in here, but I don't specifically pick up on those typical animalic notes like Cedar and castoreum. I don't pick up on anything that aggressive, more like that human skin or someone's scalp, just that warm body type scent, but also the cleanliness. Like I said, imagine fresh sheets or something like that mixed together, and then it's cloud-like, so you're waving the sheets in the air. So there's a lightness, there's an ethereal element here. Well, not an element, I mean the whole thing is fairly ethereal, which I did not expect. So I am really pleasantly surprised, because I thought it was going to be rich, boozy and sweet, and instead it's got a lightness to it, and it's very musky, and musky is a thing. Musky is my thing. I am a musk whore, and I'm really enjoying the muskiness. And I wonder if it's something, I don't know, I know Pete will tell me if I ask him, if there's something like an aldehyde that's bringing this cleanliness, not just musks, but sometimes aldehydes, because there's a whole ton of aldehydes out there. People often go aldehydes as if their aldehyde is only one thing, but there are so many different aldehydes, and there are some aldehydes that can bring a lotion-like effect to a fragrance. There are some that bring that fizzy, effervescent effect. If you think of Chanel No. 5, that's a very sharp, fizzy aldehyde in there. And I'm not thinking of those. I'm thinking more of an aldehyde that brings a little soapy cleanliness to a fragrance. So it wouldn't surprise me if there's something like that. Pete, if you watch this, tell me. How the hell have you balanced this so that you've got these notes, but it's not heavy and thick and cloying? I do not know. I actually like this. I like the cleanliness of it, the muskiness of it, and the fact that you just have, it's just playing with the slightly heavier, richer notes, but really it's not rich. It's just got a little bit of richness. It's really lovely, but the balance here at the moment, based on these top notes, the balance here is perfection. It's kind of like Your Skin but better, but it's not in that really clean way, or in that or the way that it could be with sort of like those irisy lipsticky type scents. It's not really like that. It's like your skin but you've had a lot of fun. It's not Your Skin but better, it's your skin after you've had some fun, but not in a ew way. Nothing, no secretions magnifique effect here whatsoever. But there is definitely a heated skin. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Heated skin, but soft, sweet, fluffy elements as well. Yeah, everything's so subtle. So I can understand that coffee's in here, but if I just smelt it, I would never say I smell coffee. Let's talk about the sweetness level. So the sweetness level is actually only just a bit sweet. It's not lacking in sweetness, because for me to like something, it has to have some sweetness. But it's like if you made a cup of coffee and you put a quarter teaspoon of sugar in and mixed it up, maybe a bit more, but not a whole teaspoon. And yeah, because when you drink a coffee with one sugar, it's still reasonably sweet. So we're talking a less than a teaspoon of sugar in a large cup of coffee. That's the level of sweetness. I think it's really important to know that this is light, not light in a weak sense, but there's air, there's space to breathe between the molecules of fragrance in the air. So if you're thinking it's going to be heavy like tobacco veneers or any of those kind of like tobacco scents, it's nothing like that. It's not thick and heavy and it's light, airy, it's fluffy, but it's not a freshie, but it's also not what you might consider as like a midwinter type fragrance when you want like a blanket of thick, sweet, rich stuff around you. It's that in between seasons kind of scent. Definitely really feel a lot of muskiness here and a lot of nuance. I think this is one of those je ne sais quoi perfumes. It's not necessarily smelling like a perfume. There's no floral here. There's nothing floral. There's nothing citrus. There's nothing aquatic. If you think of all the typical fragrance genres out there, I guess it leans a touch gourmand, but I'd call it a musk perfume with just a hint of a gourmand touch. That's how it smells to me at the moment. And that's why I'm getting that Your Skin but naughtier and not really a perfume, because it doesn't really fit into any category that I could give it. I think it would evoke a sense of mystery. I think if someone smells this on you, they're not even going to know that it's a perfume, but they're going to think, what is that? That she smells great or he smells great, because it's totally not one or the other. Someone's going to think they smell good, almost not quite edible, but they might want to eat you. They might find it really attractive because of that muskiness with just a hint of sweetness, and just the fact that it is so evocative and unusual. Yeah, I'd love to know what else is in here apart from the note listing. I'd love to know what is causing this effect. And I'm really pleased that it wasn't as I expected. But I think you need to bear that in mind if you're considering buying it. I would say definitely sample first, because if you're thinking of buying it, based on the notes, you might expect something richer. You might expect a full-on gourmand. And I think you need to understand that that is not what it is. It's certainly not what I expected, so it might not be what you expect, so definitely sample first. But for me, it's better than expected. I'm curious to what else might come out, so I think what I'm going to do is leave it here, and we're going to give it a little bit of time to develop, and I'll come back and see if I can pick out anything else. Okay, so 45 minutes has passed since I very first sprayed it on the back of my hand, and a couple of things. I went outside and I could smell it without putting my hand anywhere near my nose. It was just lifting up in the air, and even now, just doing that, it's really a strong fragrance without the heaviness. So it's absolutely noticeable. It's definitely present. It is not a skin scent. It's not weak, but it just has a light and airy quality. So definitely, even now I'm smelling it, just moving my hand over here. So definitely good for people that are concerned about projection and longevity. I have a feeling the longevity is going to be great, but obviously we shall see. And in terms of the way it smells now, it is sweetening up. So earlier I said not quite a full teaspoon of sugar. Now I'm going to say it's a slightly heaped teaspoon of sugar. So the sweetness is coming up. I'm starting to get a sense of that coffee, but it's not like a really rich black coffee. It's like the milky foam on top of a cappuccino. So a very subtle, fluffy, sweet coffee note. I don't know if there's some sort of spice in here. Not cumin. Cumin is in maxed out. That's what makes it sort of a bit sweaty. Not cumin. If anything, something like maybe a cardamom, but it's not listed. There's no spices listed. And it doesn't smell spicy exactly, but it just wouldn't surprise me if there was some sort of spice in here. Just a little bit. Because it's an interesting perfume. It's more interesting than the note listing would have you believe. The more sweeter note, the caramel, really is still subtle. So it is sweetening up, but I am not specifically smelling a caramel or toffee-like note here. Rather maybe like a hint of, it's not even vanilla, but there's definitely a sweet, to me it's like a slightly sweetened coffee milk foam thing. That's the sweetness that I'm getting. It doesn't smell particularly boozy. I know there's this cognac note. So I wanted to respray and just see if I can figure out the booziness, because it's not really smelling that boozy to me. Oh, it is actually. Now, it is in the opening, which I don't think I spotted the first time around. It does have a boozy, I do think it smells a little like a boozy tobacco type scent in the opening. With this almost chocolatey powder, like chocolate powder. It's funny how you get different things at different times. I didn't pick that up before, but I do think you can only pick up so much. Plus you've only got your own associations and stuff. So you do have to test things several times. Yeah, I do smell almost like a chocolatey coffee. Chocolatey coffee with a slight hint of a rich liqueur, but it's not really alcoholic liqueur. It's like the scent of liqueur, but actually minus the alcohol. So a little bit of that rich cognac, but not an alcoholic cognac, if that makes sense. Just the other stuff, but cut the alcohol out kind of thing. But it's not really boozy like you might expect. So, I mean, for me, I don't like boozy fragrances. It's not a note that I enjoy. I find it too rich. You're getting a theme here, aren't you? Everything's too rich. But I do find booze in particular quite rich. I don't like, and a lot of boozy fragrances tend to be teamed with dried fruit notes, and I really don't like that at all. So this is nothing like that, and it's nothing like I expected. It's actually really, really pleasant, really, really nice. You can really tell the difference. So smelling the opening versus where we are now, that has lost. So where we are now, I would say I don't really pick up on anything too boozy. I don't really get that sort of cognac here. It's sort of powdery, almost a bit like dried resins, powdered dried resins. Imagine if you took some incense sticks, crushed them up, but nothing really heavy. How do we say? So maybe there's some benzoin in here, some light, very pleasant, slightly sweet resins. I imagine that they're powdery. So definitely feel powdery. I was trying to think if I smell smoke. I don't think it's smoky. So it's like a raw incense, like crushed up raw incense sticks, causing a powdery, slightly sweet resin-ish effect. Yeah, it's really, really nice. I definitely feel some sort of spice, I think. Can I even say that? I definitely feel some sort of spice, I think. I don't think that works as a sentence. Let me know if that's acceptable. I don't think it is. Let's try again. I feel like there's some sort of spice in here, but nothing, like, it's not like cinnamon. It's not a really strong spice. It's something a little more subtle. Maybe not a herb. Maybe nothing. Maybe it's my imagination. Maybe something like fennel, or although that would come off licoricey. I don't get licorice. Maybe more like turmeric. Turmeric doesn't have a very strong smell. So a very subtle, potentially just in my head, spice element. But mostly sweet, powdery. Something almost slightly rubbery, actually, but only very subtly so. Yeah, there is something slightly rubbery. A similar rubberiness that's in Belle Âme from Eugene Les Abstraits. A similar rubberiness, but on even a lesser scale, just a really subtle rubberiness. Yeah, but still that element of cleanliness. But it's the cleanliness is also very subtle. All the nuances are very subtle, playing together really nicely. Nothing's jumping out as, there's no particular note that's jumping out to me. So we have patchouli in here. I don't find that too noticeable. So if you're someone like me who's a bit sensitive to patchouli, doesn't like too much patchouli, you don't need to worry. I don't really pick up on it. I think it might be making that chocolatey nuance that I'm getting. I imagine that coffee with the foam on top and the chocolate powder. So it's a cappuccino. But then you've got these other hints of sort of like resiny, spicy, powdery, with that little hint of rubberiness. All of it is put together so nicely. It's a really wearable, very appealing fragrance, and yet interesting and mysterious, and not really like a typical fragrance at all. Still feels very musky, it still feels airy, but it's definitely strong. So it's a bit of an oxymoron. Is that the right word? It's quite strong, but it's not overbearing in any way. It's actually really nice and light. And I think you would only want to wear a little bit of it. Maybe it would be overbearing if you sprayed a lot. And maybe you're someone who likes a big impact from your fragrance, you just would overspray this, or you don't even need to overspray it. I feel like it's something to be used with minimal sprays, but for those of you who like something a lot stronger and bigger, you could just wear 4 sprays, 5 sprays, Whereas for me, if I had this, I would wear 2 sprays probably. That would be enough. It's definitely got a real noticeable, there's an aura coming up from my hand, even from a distance from my nose. So very impressive. Really has changed. When I smell here, the newly sprayed bit, I definitely do pick up on the alcohol part, or the boozy part, the cognac. I don't like to say I particularly pick up on the cognac, because I know for a fact I wouldn't say I smell cognac if I was smelling it blind. So I don't want to bullshit you, but I do smell that boozy liqueur element. So I would say that is there, but it's not really sticking around. Sort of an hour later, I don't think I find it here. This is more about the powdery, coffee, musky, maybe spice. Maybe spice. Not baby spice, but maybe spice. Yeah, that's it for now. I might come back with one more interjection. Right then, final installment. It's now been 2¼ hours since I first sprayed it on the back of my hand here. I've just made some notes. I feel like the spice might be chili or nutmeg, or maybe even a combination. So that's a kind of, or even a pepper. I think you call it cilantro overseas. We just call them red peppers, green peppers. But you know, the non-spicy big bell pepper. I think bell pepper is the right word. Maybe something a little bit like that. So almost got a hint of green to it. But that's the spice that I'm getting. The overall vibe is comforting, cozy. I've written here hugs, warm. I find it spicy, powdery, chocolatey, and sweet and savoury. So I think that's maybe where that what feels to me like a chili pepper type thing is counteracting with the sweeter notes. So I get this sweet and savoury feel at the same time, although I'd say that it's more sweet than it is savoury for sure. I also feel like I get a hint of tobacco, but only on a very, very tiny amount. But it just gives me that tobacco kind of feel. It also smells a little milky. So imagine warm milk. I know I've mentioned that with the coffee and the cappuccino thing earlier, but I really do feel like I get that lactonic feel from warm milk in here. And I've written down that it reminds me of, or it makes me think of a fragrance I tried a long time ago called Coco Aztec from Paris Monte Carlo. And that's a chili, chocolate, sort of spicy, but very smooth fragrance. I haven't smelt it for a long time, but it just brought that to mind, and that's what made me think about chili and feel like there's some chili in here. Definitely sweet and savoury and warm and cozy. So yeah, my pussycat's here. So yeah, let's see if I can show you the cat. There she is. There she goes. There she goes. So you can now hear her purring in the background, which is always nice. So yeah, that's my overall feeling. It's a warm, cozy, comforting hug of a fragrance that's not too heavy and is far more interesting than I think the notes suggest. If you like the sound of it, get yourself a sample. I'm definitely going to be giving this sample a few wearings. I'm probably going to use the whole thing because I really do like it. So that's it then. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you could always buy me a coffee, a Ko-fi. I will put the link in the description below. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.